question. I
Right.
wanted to state for the record, where is he? And it's quite provocative for someone to use the CDC in the same statement talking about Nazi death camps. And he tried to suggest that somehow his words have been taken out of context. Look at the transcript, it speaks for itself.
You announced that you would be voting against RFK Jr., and so his former running mate, Nicole Shanahan, took to Twitter and responded to your tweet. And she wrote, "Man, do I regret ever helping you. The only reason that you're in that seat is because I sent massive financial support to Shirley Sherrod's C4 to mobilize rural Georgia during the 2020 runoff. I'll be correcting that massive mistake here ASAP. You're awful." Can I have your response to what I view as the oligarchic bent of today's GOP, where these wealthy donors have decided that they and they alone are just the general arbiters of who can and can't be in office?
It sounds like she thinks she purchased my seat. I beg to differ. The people of Georgia elected me in a historic election. In fact, they voted for me 5 times in less than 3 years. So I'm very clear about who I represent. I represent the people of Georgia and their interests. In my state, the CDC is a crown jewel focused on protecting the American public against disease, against the next pandemic. We've got some 10,000 employees who do incredible work every single day. And they deserve a leader at the CDC who's not a dilettante, who's not a conspiracy theorist, but someone who will be focused on their health, their well-being, and I'll be focused on them.
Do you have any worry that when you see folks like RFK Jr., who may very well be confirmed as HHS secretary, when you see other folks who demonize the very agencies that they're setting out to run, and these, to your exact point, are situations where it's life or death for Americans. I mean, Health and Human Services is literally life or death for Americans. When you have the transportation sector, for example, and you have a commercial jet colliding with a military helicopter for the first time in decades, this, again, is life or death. And when you have people in these agencies or atop these positions who are hostile to the very agency that they're seeking to lead, does that worry you about, does that portend something grim about what we're about to see as we move forward into the Trump administration, beyond even the crash that we just saw in the last 24 hours?
Well, many of these nominees worry me, but I came to this process of advise and consent, which is my obligation as a United States Senator, with an open mind. There are some of these nominees that I'm open to voting for. I've met with every last one of them who's asked for a meeting with me. But I'm going to take seriously my role of advise and consent to make sure that we've got the best people we can get, given who this administration is, to fill these seats. And I think in a real sense, Brian, the onus of this moment really is not on the Democrats, it's on the Republicans. I think it's so very important that people understand
Yeah.
that even when you have the worst nominee, take this defense secretary debacle that just went down.
Yeah.
Even if you get every last Democrat to vote no, we can't stop a single one of these nominees, no matter how unified we are. It's just plain math. We've got to have a handful of Republicans who will choose nation over party, who will choose the people over some partisan advantage, who will understand that they work for the people of America, the people of their respective states, and not for someone who wants to be a king. That's the moral decision that sits in front of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And I pray to God, for the sake of our country, that they will find the backbone and the moral courage to make the right decision.
To that point,
So far, I haven't seen any evidence of that.
to that point, it's clear what they should do. Do you have any indication whether any of these senators will defer to doing what's right versus just blindly offering loyalty to Donald Trump, in the sense that he put these people forward, he expects fealty and expects that the senators in the Republican Party are going to give that to him.
Well, and that's a fundamental violation of both the substance and the spirit of the American experiment. And in this moment, it's really on all of us to stand up. We have three co-equal branches of government. We don't have a king. And I think we're seeing in real time that elections do have consequences. Donald Trump said he wanted to be a dictator on day one. People didn't believe him. I think you should believe him. He indicated that, he seems to think that he doesn't have to follow the law. You see it in these executive orders that were passed the very first day. I mean, think about it. On the very first day of office, before he had slept one night in the White House, he pardoned the January 6th insurrectionists who literally bludgeoned and, in some instances, killed law enforcement officers, tried to disenfranchise millions of voters across our country by disrupting the nonviolent transfer of power. In a real sense, we should see that there's not much distinction between what happened the first week and what happened the second week. That this effort to basically say to every federal employee, regardless of skill, expertise, and experience, we'd rather you resign, and then this effort to literally pull back monies that Congress has already appropriated.
Yeah.
Let's be really clear what you're witnessing. You're witnessing the administrative manifestation of January 6th. This is an attack on the democracy itself. And it is a time for every American, whether you're in office or not, to stand up and say that the republic belongs to the people. You don't own it, you can't buy it, and you can't buy it out.
Prior to our recording this interview, going back to the tragic crash that happened in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump took to the podium and immediately started blaming diversity, blaming DEI. He also blamed Democrats. He blamed Joe Biden. He blamed Pete Buttigieg. He blamed the 2020 election. But the crux of what he was blaming was the very concept of diversity. Can I have your reaction to him failing to accept any responsibility for his own government and instead trying to vilify as a boogeyman the very concept of diversity and, more specifically, brown and black people?
I've not seen a worse response from a president in the wake of an awful tragedy. One of the roles of that office and its sacred trust is consoler in chief. In the course of a presidency, tragedies are bound to happen. That's the nature of life. And whether it's a terrible accident like what we saw last night, or a horrific school shooting, which we see too many of, people expect their president to show up on the scene and certainly insist that government finds out what happened here. And that's our work, and get to the bottom of it. But to take a beat and to take a moment and to comfort those who are directly impacted and the nation itself. I know a little something about this because long before I came to the Senate, I was and am a pastor. I've been with families as they've had to confront the unthinkable in their worst tragedies. And I can tell you, not just as a member of the Senate, but as a pastor, that for Donald Trump to pile on his politics and his bigoted agenda on top of the pain that these families are already feeling is way beyond the pale. How about take a moment and express with some real depth the pain that people are feeling
Yeah.
in this moment. And then let's get to the bottom